All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insane Leader 13, as we are preparing to get underway for the third and final stint of this month's P1R SEC Enduro here at Catalunya. It was a very unexpected nipping at the end of Cravato nipping pipes for the victory. It wasn't by a large amount, but he did get them. The overall distance between first and second now is 0.38 miles at the moment. So we will be keeping an eye on the gap between Cavatro's team and the ESV team as it goes forward. But real quick, let's go ahead and look at some of the drivers who will be running in today's event here. First up, it looks like we're going to be getting... We're still waiting on some people to properly load in, so please stand by there. But of some of the drivers who will be running, Snowland is going to be back in that unpainted Acura NSX. NDL Beats will be back in the number 79 Acura. AFZ Next will be back in the black Dodge Viper. NDL Illusion is taking over the number 160 Dodge Viper. NDL Avocado is going to be taking over in the McLaren 720 that won Stint 2. He'll also be the host for today's stint. VER Camworthy will be in the 925 Chevy Corvette. NDL Cosmic is going to be back in the number 51 BMW M8. EMC Bunter is making another stint in the number 8 Mustang JSR. Okay, well, then we will have JSR Light, who is going to be back in the number 420 Aston Martin Vantage. NDL Micro is now taking over a spot in the number 50 Ferrari. We're still waiting to see what Team ZR Ruiz Racer is in. I hope we'll get something on that in a bit here. And we are still waiting on a few other drivers. There you are. ZR Ruiz Racer is going to be one of our Audi drivers in the event. We are expecting 18 drivers. We do not think, there might be a little 17. We do not think that the PTG team is going to attempt Stint 3 due to their awful performance in Stint 1 and disconnecting so early in Stint 2. There is also a big wild card. There may be a possibility that the VER entry that had been third overall in distance up to this point may not have a driver available for the final stint, and they may have to withdraw their car. So there is a possibility we will be looking at a smaller field just because of that. Still waiting. It looks like we'll have HYR Otavio, who will be running in today's event as well. I'm guessing that he will be in the HYR Mustang entry. I'm waiting for that to update. Excuse me. It's not updated yet. It still says Huracan. There we are. Yep, Ford Mustang number 31, like we anticipated. So while we are in this holding pattern, we're going to go ahead and knock out a Twitch mandated ad break to try and get ahead of the ad breaks. And when we come back, hopefully we'll have the majority of the drivers who will be running in this final stint with us on track here. We'll be back shortly. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Catalunya. We are still in a holding pattern as we are waiting to see. We may have 3 different teams that are not showing up for this final stint. So that could have a bit of an interesting knock-on effect going forward. Any teams who just kind of stuck through, even if they were a backmarker team, might still be able to bring home some respectable points. Speaking of points, again, the big thing to keep an eye on is the fight between what will be the NDL Avocados McLaren and ESV Karts' Dodge. In the overall distance, the ESV team still has the advantage, but if Avocado can push together some incredible laps here and open up a big enough gap on Karts, or if Karts has something happen, this win could end up going in favor of the NDL team. It looks like we may have just now gotten one more person here. Yeah, it looks like NWR Berkey is going to try and jump in here last minute. So looks like we're going to be looking at 16 cars for this stint, potentially. You have to remember that I do not count as a driver in this. But yeah. This one is going to be daytime, although it will be ending in the night. So the very end of the stint will be under night conditions, but otherwise this will be a daytime stint for the most part. It's going to be cloudy the entire way through, but there will be enough sunlight that you could still be able to see pretty easily. No weather, which has been a first. The last 3 events have been affected by weather in some way or another. No significant rain at all in this event today. So be aware of that. 4 different Vipers in today's event. Poprocki, Illusion, Nex, and Karts all running different Vipers. We have 2 Acuras by the looks of it, 1 McLaren, 2 Chevys. It does look like the other VER Chevy is pulling out because they could not find a 3rd driver, which is a shame because that car was performing for a podium, was on track for a podium result. ZR Ruiz Racers in the only Audi, Cosmic is in the only BMW, Berkey in the only Mercedes, EMC Bunter and Otavio in the Mustangs, GSR Light in the Vantage, and Micros in the only remaining Ferrari. So yeah, it does look like we have gone from a 19-car field down to a 16-car field at this point of the event. Okay, don't know how long we're going to end up waiting overall. I will go ahead and bring up the overall distance tally as is right now to give you an idea as to the other spots to be looking at. Again, it is the VER Chevrolet that Bruno had been driving that looks like they are not going to be taking over in this next stint. So 3rd place would be up in the air, and that is a very hotly contested spot between the VER team that is still here, along with the NDL teams that have Hot Dog, and then the one with has Wara in it. So that would be the team with NDL Beats and NDL Micro, and they would be fighting with VER Worthy. Those 3 drivers look like they'll be fighting for 3rd. The gap in distance between the 3 of them is 0.12 miles, so only a little less than about 600 feet between those 3 going into it. Also of note, it should be said as well that the F1R team that has had Poprocki and Moonrise, they are also just on the edge of that. They are at 393.69, so if you factor them in as well, the gap from 4th to 6th, 4th to 7th going into this race, and it looks like those 4 will be the ones fighting for 3rd overall. The gap from 4th to 7th would be 0.13 miles between them. So, yeah, keep that in mind that we could be looking at a very, very wild fight for 3rd overall, because it looks like the team that was set up to be 3rd is just not going to be able to run. It seems like they are not able to get a driver to fill in for them. Shame, but it does seem like that is the case. Excuse me. We are still in a holding pattern right now. All right, I think this is going to be it. I think we're only looking at these drivers. Then, yep, here we are going to load on here and get the field ordered up real quickly. All right, so as you can see, with the top VER contained team dropping out, it's going to be a fight between NDL Micro, NDL Beats, VER Worthy, and F1R Pop Rocky. Those four will be fighting for third overall, not just in the stint, but likely for the overall event. So that will be something absolutely worth keeping an eye on. Other thing to keep in mind, Karts and Avocado in two completely different cars. Going to be looking at a very interesting scenario between the two of them, because this is the third different ESV driver. It's been Green and Pipes, and now it will be Karts. Avocado is the second different driver in this car. So if one of them is completely off pace of their teammates, it's going to obviously take them out of contention. If both of them are if both of them are significantly off pace, which is unlikely considering we've seen that Karts has been very competent, but if both of them end up being significantly off pace, things could get really, really interesting, to say the least. They should be far enough ahead overall to maintain the lead, but if Karts and Avocado are both way off pace and fall back into the grip of that four-way fight for third on track, this final distance result could get really, really funky here. Excuse me. All right, well, while we're still in this holding pattern, I'm going to knock out another ad break here, and hopefully when we come back, we can just have like 30 minutes of running here. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, as we've loaded onto the circuit here. So it'll be a reduced field size as we prepare to get underway here at Catalunya. Everyone should filter down into single file order right away. So it will be Karts, Avocado, Micro, Beats, Worthy, Paparaki. Then after that will be Ruiz Racer, Snowland, HYR Otavio, Bunter, Berkey, Cosmic, Nex, Illusion, and Hyphen. And we'll see them accelerate momentarily here. This is the first time it is going to be Dodge versus McLaren at the head of the field. And this is the highest up we've seen the Ferrari start all day long as well. So that could also go interesting. And we are off and underway for the final 2 hours of racing here at Catalunya. Already it's getting a little bit feisty farther back in the grid. Beats trying to go too wide. There's VER Camworthy hanging out there in 5th spot. Just a little bit behind them is F1R Paparaki, who is also in the middle of that fight. Paparaki tries to go side by side, but is not willing to push the issue. It's still so early in the event. It's not stopping the fight for third, though. Micro and Beats neck and neck. The Ferrari holding station over the Acura. Again, remember, these two teams, the Acura NDL car and the Ferrari NDL car, they were even on points coming into today's event. And while the ESV team is almost guaranteed to leapfrog them in points overall, this is still a legitimate fight for what will end up being third in overall championship points between the two of them. And now that is third in the overall race today up to play. That could further really open up how the rest of this goes. Our top two, Karts and Avocado, have absolutely scooted away from the rest of the field very early on here. It is ESV Karts in the lead with NDL Avocado hanging out in second. A little bit more chaos going on here near the middle of the field. Paparaki, Ruiz Razor, JSR Light all on top of each other here. It looks like for the moment the Audi is on top. So Ruiz Racer holds on to 7th spot for the moment. In the top two, it looks like Karts has opened up a steady gap on Avocado and is just going to focus on keeping that McLaren behind for the moment. So the ESV team's strategy has been to do 7 stops, 6 of the running as many stints on softs, but one of their last 2 stints has been on the mediums. But while Cavatro was the driver who was in that McLaren, he was running fewer stops, and he only ran on soft tires, but he was pushing his soft tires very, very deep into the run. It somehow ended up working for him in both stints. He's gotten a second and a first. He is only a little bit more than a third of a mile out from the ESV team right now. And with the third place team coming into this final stint, having not dropped out pretty much due to not having a driver, as long as there's no catastrophic failure, Avocado's team has basically done everything they need to maintain as much of their lead in the championship over their title rivals. First, second, third, and fourth on track are the top 4 teams in the championship as well coming into today's event. So keep that in mind as well. It does not look like we're going to have a lot of movement overall. Yes, ESV will go ahead and leapfrog over Beats, and something has happened to Micro. Micro has suddenly dropped way off and fallen well down the grid all the way back to 6, and you have to wonder, is this driver trying to go from medium tires? He's at 10.4%, where we look at Beats, who was the driver he was fine with earlier, 16%. I think that makes it very clear that the Ferrari team are going to elect to start this stint on the harder tire. Karts is currently at 17.5% tire wear at the front. Avocado in second is currently at 18%. So the Dodge still is maintaining a tire life advantage. Beats is at 18.4 at the rear. Paparaki, who is in the next highest Viper right now, 18.6. Then VER Camworthy, who is running in 5th, is at 13. I believe he is also on a medium set of tires right now. Then you have this Mustang of HYR Otavio, one of the best runs we've seen from them for a while. They're at 20% already. And then you get to NDL Micro, who is in the next hard tire compound in the field. ZR Ruiz Racer is currently at 19%. JSR Light is running at 14%, so he also is on the harder tire compound. Then you have Birchie in the lone Mercedes, 21% wear already. NDL Cosmic in the M8 just behind is at 13, so another driver on the harder tires. Snowland, who is at 12th right now, also on the harder tire compound. EMC Bunter in the Mustang, softer compound, but I don't think he's going fast enough to really use them. Next is at 15, so he is also on the harder compounds. NDL Illusion near the back of the grid is at 15, and last place NWR Hyphen, who has completely lost touch with the rest of the field, is at 15% wear right now. Otavio has actually gotten by VER Worthy, so a Mustang as high as 5th Now, outside of ESV Green's triple stint at Bathurst, which ended up due to post-event penalties, controversial post-event penalties, ended up giving them the win, the Mustangs have not had a single run in the top 3 at all this season. So Otavio, while he's not in the top 3 yet, he is putting on one of the best performances from a Mustang we have seen outside of what the ESV team has been able to do. Otavio was trying to keep a smorgasbord of aggressive drivers behind him right now. VER Worthy and NDL Micro have found each other. And remember, those two drivers are both on the medium tire, so they are fighting each other on the same strategy. As I say that, Micro drops a tire into the dirt and is going to fall behind Ruiz Racer and see the gap between themselves and VER Worthy massively open up. That's great news for NDL Beats, who runs 3rd right now on track and will be looking to inherit 3rd in the race and secure 3rd in the overall Drivers' Championship. NDL Beats holding station over F1R Pop Rocky here. As they come to the top of the hill, I'm really impressed with what Otavio is doing right now. Bringing this Mustang up into a top 5 position and slowly pulling away from the drivers behind. Now, again, a lot of it is because one of the best drivers, or one of the best teams, were not able to run. Another reason. Oh, and they've dropped tires in the dirt. I think this run's just about to come to an end. Here comes Worthy. Here comes Ruiz Racer. There's nothing that you can do when you drop tires coming onto the straight like that. And there's some sort of disconnect issue. Otavio's car is flashing as if there's been some sort of disconnect. And Otavio goes from 5th to 7th and just a straightaway. So now it is VER Worthy who moves up into the 5th spot on track with ZR Ruiz Racer putting pressure on him. Ruiz Racer now gets to the inside. So Audi, Mustang, and Corvette all on top of each other here. And now Worthy is kind of spat out, and it's Ruiz Racer who now moves up into the 5th position on track. Micro hangs out just a little bit behind, trying to claw time back. Does look like Carts and Avocado are still the cream de la cream, the cream of the crop here. So no one's going to catch them. Getting really argy-bargy here between these two. 4th, 5th position right now. Worthy just has to hang out here. He doesn't have to go crazy. Doesn't have to make moves. As long as he's not being held up by these two, that's fine. Because he is on an alternate tire strategy right now. And it would be incredible if this VER team ended up stealing a 3rd place overall on the back of this alternate strategy. Now, I don't know how likely that is because NDL Beats and Pop Rocky are well up the road. But it would be very impressive if Worthy was able to make that kind of thing happen. Secure a top 3 result for one of the VER teams when the other one could not complete all 3 stints. No real big fights in the top 4 positions right now. This is the first real fight for position on track at the moment. Quite a tire slide that you can audibly hear on board this Camaro. The two ahead are not really having a great time of it either. Still, Ruiz Racer has put the Audi up in the 5th, and we've not seen an Audi reign in 5th position for months, literal multiple months. So Mustang and Audi, although there are some extraneous circumstances causing it, having some of the best runs we have seen from them in literal months. For the Mustang, this is arguably the 2nd best run we've seen of them of all since the Mustang was added to this league. Micro is not really closing in on VER Worthy at the moment. Oop, that was not who I wanted to look at. I wanted to look at Ruiz Racer here. He continues to hold station over Otavio. Comes back onto the front straightaway here. Whose Racer really cut down low, trying to deny the inside line to the Mustang. The Mustang said, okay, I'm fine with that. I'll take the long way around. He's going to try and go on the outside, going into turn 1, heavy under the brakes. And the Mustang goes nice and deep under braking, and then parks the car right in front of that number 150 Audi. So Otavio now puts the Mustang back into the top 5 positions here. Again, no real movement, nothing going on in the top 4 positions right now. So this is the highest battle on track at the moment. A little bit farther back, this is Cosmic and Snowland, Acura and BMW M8 having a bit of a fight, and Snowland goes off deep into the dirt. He's able to avoid hitting the tire barrier, but a little bit of contact, and Snowland gets sheared off the circuit. And that's going to completely take the wheels off of any kind of run that he was having here. And now we're starting to see a bit of a fight starting to develop for 3rd and 4th. It looks like Beats may have pushed the tires to their limit, and now Pop Rocky is starting to close in. Already Beats in the 55% range. Pop Rocky, on the other hoof, is only... Well, no, Pop Rocky's at 57%, so Pop Rocky is burning through their tires faster than Beats is. But still, Pop Rocky is closing in on NDL Beats at this stage of the event. So we want to keep an eye on that. They're likely going to be painting at about the same time. Otavio still leads just barely over Ruiz Racer. VER Worthy has completely lost touch with them. Birchie has actually gotten by NDL Micro farther back as well. So we will be the first ones to pit. We look at our leader, Karts. I imagine he would consider pitting this time. He's at 60% tire wear now. He is at 60% tire wear. NDL Avocado, who is in 2nd, is at 60% as well. NDL Beats is at 60% as well. And Pop Rocky is at 61%. Then you get to Otavio, who's going to be about 63, I would imagine. No, 64%. They are burning up the rears. And then you have Ruiz Racer, who is fighting with him, 60%. So Otavio is going to have to pit this time due to tire life, but most of the drivers in the top 6, I imagine, will be painted at the end of this lap just due to fuel consumption, the rate of fuel consumption that we are seeing right now. The gap between the top 2 seems to be mostly stable at this stage of the event. Karts just seems to have Avocado's number right now on track. With only 16 cars on track, we may see traffic be a little bit less of an issue than it was in the prior stint as well. And here comes Karts into the pits. Here comes Avocado into the pits. We're likely going to see both Beats and Pop Rocky pit. And yep, there's Beats coming in. But Pop Rocky is staying out. No! Pop Rocky has crashed coming into the pit lane. And that is going to derail any hope that Pop Rocky had of a top result. Oh, and he's not the only one. That's a Mustang. Was that Bunter? No, that wasn't Bunter. Who was that? That was a Mustang. Was it Otavio? Well, it looked like it was a Mustang, but another driver had an instant coming into the pits. So Pop Rocky's been shunted down, and there was another driver who's going to get shunted down the order as well off of that. So that's going to randomize that fight for 3rd. And now it is VER Worthy and NDL Micro who inherit 1st and 2nd. JSR Light is now 3rd in the Aston, also on the medium tires. Then you have EMC Bunter, and then you'll have NDL Cosmic 5th, who also has yet to make a stop. But Karts is very clear of Avocado. There is a massive amount of traffic between Karts and Avocado right now. So yeah, unless something catastrophic happens, it is very obvious that this McLaren does, in this stint at least, does not have anything for the Dodge, and the ESV is going to win this. But again, thinking the overall big picture championship, Avocado doesn't need to win this race. He needs to come home 2nd, right behind Karts, so the team can maintain as much of their championship advantage as possible with just only 2, might be 3, but we anticipate just 2 races left in the season. They have over a race worth of points, and if they finish where they are projected to be, they would still have over a race worth of points with just 2 rounds remaining. Avocado's already disposed of next. Illusion will be the next driver they will have to deal with on circuit. Interesting thing to consider is that Karts is going to be catching NDL Cosmic and EMC Bunter in just a bit. As I say that, though, Bunter ducks into the pits, but Karts is about to catch NDL Cosmic, so we'll have to deal with traffic that way as well. There is now only one car on track between Karts and Avocado. But on track, that gap is absolutely humongous, and the M8 is not going to put any fight up against Karts. Track crossover, not to fight back, but mainly just to maintain momentum. So it now goes back to having two cars between them, as Avocado is stuck behind a different Dodge here at this stage of the event. Now he looks to the inside. Will be a bit of a drag race between the two. And Cosmic is not going to go super deep under braking, so yep, the McLaren holds station without too much issue. VER Worthy, though, is your leader, hoping that on an alternate strategy, he can pull off a top 3 result, not just in the stint, but in the race overall for the team. NDL Micro runs in second. Micro is primarily fighting with NDL Beats, and NDL Beats is third of all the drivers who've pitted, but NDL Beats still has yet to get his way through the majority of the traffic here that has yet to make their first stop of the race right now. Beats is in cleaner air at the moment, so Beats is honestly in a relatively good position. As long as Hyphen elects to pit in the next lap or two, I think he'll be fine. And that's the problem, though. I don't think Hyphen's going to be pitting anytime soon. A significant amount of drivers, though, electing to get their medium tire stint out of the way very early on. So we are locked into a two different strategies with almost no variety between them very early on in this event. As opposed, in the other stints, it was a lot more open, a lot quicker here when it came to how the tire strategies were playing out. Alright, so Avocado has cleared Cosmic, but just as he does that, Karts clears JSR Light. The gap is so big that, yes, traffic is slowing Karts down, but there's so much traffic that there's just not enough of it around for Avocado to really capitalize and close in on Karts with any significant speed. And while Avocado does seem to be disposing of traffic a little bit easier and quicker than Karts, there's just too much gap going on. Now Karts is actually in a little bit of clean air. Next drivers he would be catching will be NDL Micro and VER Camworthy at the head of this field here. How soon until this duo pits, though? That is the next question. Do you elect to pit now? Well, there's your answer. Micro is pitting now. Micro slaps the wall coming in, but Worthy is going to stay out. With Micro pitting, that's one less car that Avocado has to worry about. But still, the gap between Karts and Avocado is absolutely gigantic. Now, I'm really interested to see where Beats is going to end up in relation to NDL Micro. And if there's your answer, he's already cleared him by a pretty hefty margin. And Worthy puts up no fight against Karts either. So Worthy just lets ESV Karts scoot right by without issue. Worthy is now the only driver on track who has yet to make his first stop of the day. He's at 64% tire life, so he is trying to push these medium tires very deep, likely to make sure that he does not have to deal with much tire fall off later in the event. Avocado's coming up. Avocado's going to catch Worthy in a frustrating part of the circuit here. Even if Avocado wanted to get by smoothly, there's not really a good chance for him to do so. That wasn't too bad. He'll get by clear enough. But the gap between first and second is very much wide open. Okay, so NDL Beats runs in third in completely clean air. There's no one around him. The fight's going to be between Worthy Beats and Micro. Micro is way behind NDL Beats on track right now, but he is in relatively clean air. His air is not quite as clean as what Beats is at right now, but he is in relatively clean air. He only has one driver right ahead of him. That is Pop Rocky that I'll have to deal with. And then up farther, it will be Ruiz Racer and Otavio. But we are anticipating that Ruiz Racer and Otavio will gradually see their advantage over Micro dribble away as this event goes on. Worthy comes into the pits now. We know that NDL Beats is going to leapfrog him. Where is Micro going to be in relation to VER Worthy? Worthy stayed out an entire extra lap. He's likely going to lose a little bit of position on track, but he is going to hope to gather it back off the back of a tire advantage. He'll try and push as deep into the rest of the stint as possible. Already, Worthy is moving down pit lane, just about out, but there you go. Micro at full speed clears Worthy, and Worthy may actually be caught by Light. Yep, Light's gonna get him. EMC Bunter is gonna be just a little bit behind VER Worthy. So for the moment, there is no fights going on until you go all the way back to the 11th and 12th positions. Cosmic, Berkey, Nex, Illusion a little bit farther back, also having their own fights, but most of the top 10 have all settled down very early here at Catalunya. Two German cars fighting near the back third of the field right now. Hearts and Avocado have just absolutely destroyed everyone else on lap time. These two might actually be fast enough compared to the other drivers. They might just put half the field a lap down anyway, just off of sheer pace alone. We're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break. And while we do so, we'll ride on board with NWR Berkey for a lap. And when we come back, we'll probably start seeing our leaders make their next round of pit stops. Don't go away here at Catalunya. All right, welcome back to Catalunya, ladies and gentlemen. As we see our leader, Karts, go by, followed shortly afterwards by Avocado, and then this massive amount of dead air until we see third place NDL Beats go by. NDL Beats setting themselves up to pull off a third place result in the stint, in the race, and inheriting third position overall in the championship. After that is Otavio, then Ruiz Racer, and then F1R Pop Rocky as he goes by. That's another bit of a gap until you start getting the next drivers. You have JSR Light, VER Worthy, and NDL Micro who go by. Another little gap until you see the Mustang of Bunter. Then it's Berkey, NDL Cosmic, AFZ Next, NDL Illusion, Snowland, and NWR Hyphen. And that is your 16 drivers still running at this stage of the event. There are no real fights for position on track until you get to about here. JSR Light has snuck his way by VER Camworthy. Again, Light is on a different strategy than what Worthy and Micro are on. Worthy and Micro elected to run mediums early on, and then they will likely be running softs the rest of the way through the event. Real quickly, let's go ahead and look at the penalties. And karts, no distance penalties whatsoever. EMC Bunter and NWR Berkeley 7 are the only other drivers with no distance penalties thus far. Now, we have seen this before, and then drivers end up with distance penalties anyway. Nobody finished the first two stints with no distance penalties whatsoever. And there is a point up for the championship if you keep that in mind. So Karts is definitely going to want to try and do that if he wants to get his team anywhere closer to seriously fighting for the championship right now. But at the moment, it seems like he might be able to take home the win and maybe get his team one extra point for finishing a stint with no distance penalties. But we still have 3/4 of this final stint to go. There are still a lot of things that can change here. Next and Cosmic having their own little spat back here, and Illusion is right in the middle. Well, not Illusion, Berkey is in the middle of that as well, as BMW, Dodge, and Mercedes all in a little bit of a spat there. And Karts and Avocado pit this lap. This is about the time we are anticipating we would see that happen. NDL Beats will likely pit this time by, so will Otavio, Ruiz Razor, and Pop Rocky. I'm more interested to see if JSR Light is going to go ahead. No! Beats is going to stay out an extra lap. So NDL Beats is on medium tires on this stint. So he is choosing to run mediums on the second stint of the day and will move up into the lead for a little bit here. Karts will come out pits in second. We should see Avocado maintain third without too much issue here. This is JSR Light along with VER Worthy. They are now going to come up, and they're going to not be close enough to catch Karts or Avocado, but these two are legitimately fighting for their own positions. But it does seem like if NDL Beats is knocking out his medium tire stint now and getting the worst set of tires that he'll have to run out of the way relatively early, he'll probably run softs to the end, and I think Beats is going to set himself up to bring home a third place result now. Here comes Worthy to the inside of JSR Light. Side by side as they come uphill here. At the top of Sector 1 and now rushing downhill through down to Sector 2. Looks like the Aston for the moment has the better of the Corvette. Big slide by Worthy there. Berkey went ahead and pitted that circuit, so he has now dropped to last on track right now here. Worthy looking to try and figure out a way to get alongside and nip this Team Noodle number 420 Aston, but it seems to be a little bit of a tough nut to crack right now. NDL Beats leads on a harder compound set of tires, trying to knock the harder compound set out of the race early so they can just focus on going full soft tires to the end here. Again, one thing to consider is that the very end of this, probably the last 10 to 15 minutes, will be in the night or at least the late evening. So you will see tires handling and falling off a little bit different at the very end of this run. The accelerated time progression in this series means that every one of these races are basically 24-hour affairs, and the event started at night. The entirety of the first stint was basically at night. The entirety of the second stint was basically sunrise up until early afternoon, and now we're going from early afternoon to what will be early nighttime. So there will be a bit of a handling difference when it comes to tires later on. So do keep that in mind. Drivers who are electing to jump onto mediums at the very end of the race may be in for a rude surprise if the cars are not happy on the cooler track with those medium tires. This fight continues to go back and forth. Avocado is just a little bit up the road, and I have to wonder, is Avocado running medium tires now? I think Avocado is running his medium tires now early on in the event, also trying to get them knocked out of the way early on here. So a lot of drivers trying to knock out a stint on the harder medium tires very early on here. So I think a lot of our positions are going to be decided very early on in this event today. Avocado and Beats both seem to be running on the harder compound tires at the moment. And here comes the move. JSR Light had to go wide. He keeps Worthy behind off the top of the track, and now they come down through the final corner once again. The Corvette's going to have a draft off of the Aston Martin. Is that going to be enough for him to try and pull alongside, going into the braking zone? Light moves over just a little bit to try and defend against a big dive bomb. Where he hits that brake board. And there is no move, not yet at least. MC Bunter has now gone ahead and made their next up. I'll cycle them to second to last on track. Here comes the move now. Worthy inside, goes deep. Slides a little wide. He completes a slide job. He does. Light actually has to back off so as not to hit the Corvette in the back. So now, VER Camworthy goes up into fourth on track here. And they are both about to catch third place. NDL Avocado. Now again, tire life is going to be an issue for these two. I think these two, just about the time they'll catch Avocado, they'll have to pit to put on some new rubber. But that really kind of sells home how big the difference is between the soft tires and the medium tires here. And at the head of the field, look at this. Karts is potentially about to do the same thing, about to catch Beats on the racetrack. Beats says, I've had enough of this. Beats is going ahead and jumping into the pits now. So Karts goes back to the lead here. And Beats knocks out their second stop. JSR Light pitted, but VER Camworthy has stayed out a little longer. We saw Cam push his tires really deep earlier. He'll have to pit this time because he's almost out of fuel. In fact, is he going to have enough fuel to make it back to the line, to the pit road? Does Worthy have the fuel to make it back to pit road? Not exactly the dramatic change in events we were anticipating seeing. And again, when Worthy pits, we have to see where he ends up in relation to NDL Beats. Beats right now is leading of all the drivers who are fighting for third. Beats is the one who is net ahead, but Worthy is trying to make an alternate strategy work. But again, if Worthy runs out of fuel here, I don't know if he's going to make it. This might derail him. 0.3%, and he has to run up to the top of the hill. 0.1, 0.0. Well, he definitely ran out of fuel, but the car didn't make any sputtering sounds. But he's definitely ran out of fuel. All right. So let's see. Where is Camworthy going to end up in relation to NDL Beats, who is fighting aggressively with HYR Otavio right now? And this will be the fight for third overall. Micro staying out a little longer. Cosmic is staying out a little longer. I believe they might be going back-to-back on medium tires, honestly. And yeah, Beats clears Worthy. It's not even close. Worthy actually will end up behind Ruhr's racer and might even end up behind JSR Light, who he had been fighting with earlier. Yeah, he's going to end up back behind JSR Light. So Light pitted earlier and ends up back ahead of Worthy again anyway. So now it is NDL Micro in the Ferrari who runs in third. I think he has gone back-to-back on the medium tires. So he may be trying to just cut out pit stops overall, spend as little time on pit lane as possible to make something happen. It's a strategy we've not seen a lot of over the last few months, but it is, mathematically at least, it should be a legitimately viable option. And in Micro's defense, he does seem to have a better job balancing the tire wear from the front to the rear of the car compared to what his teammates were able to do. So this does seem to be, if a Ferrari was going to try and go a lot of runs on the medium tires and just minimize the amount of time in pit lane, this is definitely the Ferrari that would be able to do it. And on this kind of strategy, we would likely be seeing Micro make it a 5-stop race if he's just going all mediums all race long. It's a possibility. Don't know exactly how it's going to turn out, but it is a possibility. If he can do this lap and another lap afterwards, he would make it happen. But I'm not super excited about what that fuel number looks like right now. He might instead elect to make it a 6-stop, do a bunch of mediums, but then near the end of the race, make it a pair of softs tire runs at the very end and just absolutely fly up through the grid. That could also be a legitimate strategy that we see Micro go for. Cosmic runs in 4th position, and I believe he is also on a medium strategy right now. He's got a little bit more fuel in the tank. So I think Cosmic may legitimately be in a position where only making it 5 stops all on medium tires could be in the cards for him. If you can go 20 minutes on a set of medium tires, 5 stops would work, because you would cut 2 hours into 6 stints of 20 minutes. Obviously, you don't have to make a pit stop at the very start of the race or at the checkered flag, so it would just be 5. So, pit stops. So yeah, Cosmic might be able to make a 5-stop pit strategy work here. I think Micro might be cutting the numbers a little too close and may have to abort and go to a 6-stop and go back-to-back soft tires later on in the event. At the front, there is nothing to talk about. ESV Karts is cruising away without issue right now. Second place is NDL Avocado, who is cruising in second without issue. Karts is doing everything he needs to bring home another win for the ESV team. Avocado is doing everything he needs to for his team to maintain as much of their championship lead as possible. The fight is going to be for third, as we see Micro and Cosmic actually elected to pit this lap. He could have stayed out for a little longer, but no, he is pitting this lap. So Micro and Cosmic both pit this lap. HYR Otavio is going to go by and inherit the lead now. But we do anticipate that Otavio will be pitting sooner rather than later. Not a lot of fuel or tire life left. And we'll see NDL Beats now go back up in the 4th. Mind you, Beats was ahead of Otavio, but something happened that we missed, and he has fallen behind. Is he elected to run mediums this stint? I'm not quite sure. I think Beats ran an Beats ran an earlier stint on mediums already. I forgot that. Yeah, Beats has already done a stint on mediums. So realistically, Beats is in the position where he should be in overall 3rd position on track in this Acura here. And every driver on track has now made at least 2 stops at this stage of the event. Alright, so in about another lap, we should start seeing drivers making their 3rd round of stops here at Catalunya. We're going to go ahead and knock out one of Twitch's mandated ad breaks, and when we come back, we should see the next round of pit stops. Don't go away. There's still 2/3 of this final stint left here at Catalunya for SEC's P1R Championship. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Catalunya. ESV Karts is paying out of the lead and will be joined on pit road by India. No, Avocado is actually going to stay out a lap, so he is going longer on the tires right now. So we'll keep that in mind. But we are watching the fight right now between VER Worthy and JSR Light. It looks like Otavio will join Karts in pit lane. So Otavio will pit out third position. F1R Pop Rocky and ZR Ruiz Racer are also going to go ahead and elect to pit at this stage of the event. So the drivers who have gone soft for their first 3 sets of tires are making their third stop now. And we'll see both Worthy and Light leapfrog Otavio Paprocki and Ruiz Racer on circuit now. Right now it is only Bunter and ESV Karts who are in position to maybe take home a bonus point for having a stint with no distance penalties. For ESV, it would be very helpful if they could make it happen, but Green couldn't make it happen, Pipes couldn't make it happen. If Karts could pull off this stint with no distance penalties, not only would he secure the win for the team, it would bring them one extra very valuable point in the request to try and get the championship away from Indiel Avocado's team. Avocado stays out for another circuit here. I think Avocado is running on medium tires. Well, no, he ran a stint on medium tires earlier, so he is on a strategy offset to ESV Karts right now by knocking out the medium tires earlier in the event. No real fights in the top 7. You have to go down here to Otavio, who's just ended up ahead of Bunter and Hyphen. And Bunter and Hyphen are having a little bit of a spat between each other. A pair of American manufacturers with another Ford ahead, and then another manufacturer, Dodge, a little bit behind this. So, despite the series having a wide variety of drivers from various different parts of the globe, American manufacturers have a massive outsized impact on the makeup of the cars in this series, and Otavio is in ghost mode again. That is the second time we have seen that happen now. Big twitch by the Mustang coming out of turn 2 as he hit that inside curb. This did not work out well for him. So Bunter falls behind in WR Hyphen, and here comes Indiel Illusion in the Dodge Viper. Ooh, they're getting physical and the Corvette goes off. That might be a penalty later. And immediately Bunter gets passed by Illusion. And now Paprocki is right in the middle of this. He can watch this play out. As Hyphen's going to try and run back down on EMC Bunter here. Nose to tail. And there goes the Corvette off circuit again, and Bunter pitted just as the Corvette went off again. So now Paprocki goes back into the top 10, but Paprocki does not really seem to have the pace to fight for what we thought we could see him having an outside chance at maybe making a run for third overall. Paprocki has not shown the pace to be able to fight for third place overall. It does look like the fight for third is just going to be how few mistakes can Indiel Beats make, because no one else seems to be able to match Beats when it comes to pace. And thus far, I don't think anyone's really been able to match them when it comes to strategy either. Cosmic and Micro are back at it now. Cosmic running the M8 is following the Ferrari that Micro is in. Another frustrating time for the NDL Ferrari team. They put together 2 great stints, and then their third stint just kind of falls apart and derails. It's not the worst run ever, but they were in position to actually open up a gap on their rivals in the championship. But now, this final stint, the pace has just not been there. It looks like they're going to fall to 4th in points once this is over. Yes, our light now jumping into the pit lane. All right, Cosmic runs right behind Mike. He's got a big draft, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a big dive into turn 1. Oh, he's looking for it anyway. He gets offline. He pulls up alongside, goes deep, goes really deep. And Micro does not find him, and that is Cosmic, who goes through up into the 5th spot. Big twitch by the Ferrari behind. Micro gets all sorts of sideways with the poor handling of that Ferrari, and the moment the arrow gets ripped off the nose of the car, the handling immediately goes away. Alright, looks like Micro's adapted. Micro's kind of figured out how the aero balance has changed already. So now he's closing back in and trying to make another, or set up at least, for another attempt at a run at NDL Cosmic right now. NDL Avocado finally pits out of the lead. So that will give the lead of the race back to ESV Karts. Mind you, ESV Karts is on an alternate strategy compared to Avocado. Almost everyone seems to be committed to a 7-stop strategy where you're running all softs with 1 medium tire stint, but there's a lot of debate as to when you want to make that stint on the medium tires happen. This also means that for a moment at least, NDL Beats will now cycle up into 2nd place on track. Alright, so now the BMW leads the Ferrari, but that gap between the two of them is really large, and I see no way the Ferrari gets close enough to make a big dive bomb. And this is true. He will not go for a big lunge under braking in turn 1. Not this time. Not here. Right now, while we watch this fight, mind you, Cosmic still has more distance penalties than Micro, about a little more than 3 times the amount. So while on track, Cosmic has it. Micro does have him beat when it comes to distance penalties at the moment. In fact, Micro has the lowest amount of distance penalties of everyone except for Bertie, Bunter, and your leader Karts right now. Of course, we still have over half of this stint left. That can change. There's plenty of time for that to change. But it is a possibility. Now we see that number 50 setting up. Is going to try and go the long way around the BMW. The BMW goes sideways and gets all sorts of sideways coming to the top of the hill. And it's really just compromised both of their runs. Neither of them are really having a good time of it there. That didn't really work out for either of them. It was not a bad idea to get side by side, but it seems like neither driver was really prepared to actually commit to going side by side in any way. And even the BMW had the ideal inside line, just kind of slid off, not really sure how to properly take the corner when someone was denying the chance at having a good run. This is VER Worthy and EMC Bunter. No, I'm sorry, that is EMC Bunter and NWR Hyphen. I apologize. These two are back at fighting again. Gone off a few times by the Corvette. The Corvette of Hyphen does seem to be faster, but Bunter has been a little bit more consistent, a little bit more reserved, and has been doing a decent job keeping Hyphen behind. Still waiting to see when NDL Beats is going to make his third stop. He's going very, very deep in the run. So as this Mustang versus Corvette battle near the rear of the grid continues, keep our eye looks like Cosmic and Micro are both painted at the same time out of the 4th and 5th positions here. So that will cycle Otavio back up to 4th on track now. Indiel Illusion is going to go ahead and jump into the pit lane as well. So just about everyone is knocking out their third stop of the race at the moment. We still have Indiel Beats near the front, who has yet to make his third stop, but everyone else is making their third stop of the race now. That Mustang really likes to go wide. Going to defend the inside against the Corvette. The Vet still stays right there in the draft. This could be the move. Now the Corvette looks to the outside. The Mustang moves wide to get onto the braking line. The Corvette's going to hold the inside. Heavy under the brakes. He goes deep. Boy, does he go deep. Is that going to be enough? It is. And the, and the Corvette is going to clear the Mustang. Hyphen goes up into 12th over EMC Bunter. Solid move. All right, on track for second. NDL Beats. Does he pit this time? Yes. No! He misses! He hits the pit lane entry! And NDL Beats, who just needed to not make mistakes, has made a catastrophic mistake and hit pit lane entry just as they were going to make their pits. And all of a sudden, the fight for third is up in the air all over again. All of a sudden, all sorts of different drivers could maybe steal third place back. This could have a gigantic outsized effect on the rest of this event. Otavio in the Mustang now moves up into third on track. A Mustang in the top 3 on merit. I mean, there is some strategy to play, but the Mustang in the top 3 would have been unspeakable. But after the ESV team went out and did some incredible things with the Mustang, really it was just Green. Green was the only driver in the Mustang. At Bathurst, now we are seeing another driver in the form of H-Wire Otavio making something happen now. After hitting the pit lane wall, NDL Beats, who is he fine with? He is now behind JSR Light as trying to stay ahead of VER Worthy. And now your leader, ESV Karts, is coming into the pits. So Karts ducks it into the pits now. NDL Avocado will likely be able to stay out a little longer if they so choose. But with Beats having that instant and being shunted down the grid, it's going to be a lot harder to tell who is legitimately fighting for third going forward. It was looking like it was going to be very simple. Beats just needs to not make mistakes and he'll be fine. Well, Beats has made a catastrophic mistake now. And yes, Avocado did stay out and will inherit the lead over Karts for the moment. Avocado is trying to go nice and deep on these runs right now, using a strategy offset to try and get ahead of Karts. Otavio, Paparazzi, and Ruiz Racer all pit. JSR Light now is going to end up in third, with NDL Beats ending up in fourth, just a little bit ahead of Worthy. So it looks like it might be Light, Beats, and Worthy are going to be the 3 drivers now fighting for third on track. And Light is kind of the wild card because he's in an Aston that, while it wasn't awful, was not legitimately fighting for a podium result overall, or a top 4 result overall. So Light being in third would not be a third place in the overall event, because again, you have to add the cumulative distance from all 3 stints. It looks like it would still be Beats, but not by much, because Cosmic is right behind, and Micro is not too far off either. If Micro can keep the car clean and there are any more instances that happen to Beats here, Micro might still be able to bring that Ferrari into play, but he needs more trouble to befall Beats. But right now, I think Beats is still set up to bring home that Acura team in a third place result overall once this is all said and done and over with. All right, well, we are a little bit more than we are a little less than halfway through the event. We're going to round board with VER Worthy here for a flying lap around Catalunya as he tries to run down and just beat it here in P1R SEC's Enduro. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you back here to Catalunya. As you see your top 2 on track, NDL Avocado and ESV Karts on alternate strategies go by here. Third place is currently JSR Light, who is a long way out from NDL Beats. In fact, we're not even going to bother waiting here. We're just going to change the camera and look. JSR Light, NDL Beats, and VER Worthy all fighting for what is third place on track. Beats had a good gap opened up and looked like he was going to sail off with it, but he missed pit entry, hit the pit entry wall, and lost a significant amount of time in the process. Now, there is no damage in this series, so he's able to continue without issue, but it was a significant loss of time, and all of a sudden, JSR Light has just moved over and let the Acura through. Is JSR Light dealing with some extreme tire fall off? It sure seems like it. And now he is holding up VER Worthy. And Worthy's going to have to pit this lap. He doesn't have a lot of fuel left in the car. So it looks like JSR Light's tires fall off, and then Worthy needing to pit now. I think this might still all end up in NDL Beats' favor here. Corvette trying to go to the extreme outside, but there's just not enough grip way out there, not with these heavy cars. Neither of them pit this time. Is Worthy going to make it? I'm feeling, it'll be close, but he was in this position a few laps ago, and he still made it. And now here comes NDL Cosmic. That's not someone we were anticipating. 3 Why does they go down the straight? Something's wrong with that ass, and he's just pulling over and letting people by. He is not trying to fight, it seems. So now NDL Cosmic is the one fighting VER Worthy for position. And Beats is scooting away. Boy, is Beats scooted away. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, ESV Karts has just about caught NDL Avocado here. Again, Avocado on an alternate tire strat. He will have to pit probably, if not at the end of this lap, he'll have to pit next lap. But Avocado is trying to make some kind of alternate strategy work. Anything to try and be there to capitalize if something happens to Karts. Karts gets to the inside of the McLaren, but the McLaren chops him off. Goes wide, though, very nearly in the dirt. I don't know how he didn't send it off into the dirt. And there'll be nose to tail as they come out of the final corner. Here comes the Dodge to the inside. The McLaren's on the outside. Drag race between the two as they cross the start-finish line. Karts had the nose ahead at the line, but the straight line speed advantage will be in Avocado's favor. But Karts on the inside can go nice and deep under braking. Goes plenty deep under braking. The fight is over. There is nothing that the McLaren can do to fight back. Not when your tires are as cooked as they are on that thing. Still, Avocado had to try something, had to hope that something would happen to bring him, draw him back into contention here. Worthy and Light pit this time. So now Micro cycles up into the 5th spot now. And Cosmic cycles up into 4th. And it does still look like NDL Beats, despite what's happened earlier, might have, although I don't know what happened there. Beats completely turned in way too early. He's going to bleed up a massive amount of time in the process. But still, Beats is maintaining a position over NDL Cosmic. And again, Cosmic in this BMW, this is not a car that is in serious contention for the top 3 finish here for the overall podium. Beats' real closest competition, I believe, is NDL Micro. And the thing is, between Micro and Beats, Beats does have more of a distance penalty, but it's only by 0.011 miles, so only about 60 feet. That's just not enough. Micro would basically have to be right behind Beats to capitalize on that. I just don't know if that's going to happen. But if Beats keeps having these mistakes here and there, it could still be up in the air. The fight for 3rd is very much up for play. When it comes to the fight for the finishing the race with no penalties and gaining an extra point for that, Karts is the only one still in contention for that. A little less than half the race to go, but Karts has been so relaxed. He knows that no one else can touch him. No, even on alternate strategies, he can't really be touched. I think Karts is going to get this as long as he doesn't get shunted off track. And even then, if he just back off enough, the game won't penalize you for going off circuit. So, yeah, I think Karts could still pull this off here and steal an extra very valuable point in their quest to try and run down the NDL team for the championship. Here comes NDL Beats running up on NDL Avocado. Avocado has to get his tires up to temp, and it looks like he will be able to do it before Beats catches him. Only one car is a lap down right now, and that is NWR Birchie in the Mercedes. Everyone else still on the lead lap for the moment. JSR Light and VER Worthy going at it here. Big slide by Light. Worthy runs right behind. I think that just the general pace, the strategy's not been awful, but the pace has just not been there for either Worthy or Light. I don't think either of them are in a serious spot to fight for a third place result at the end of this stint, and I think that will take VER Cam Worthy out of contention for 3rd. I think it is really just Beats versus Micro, and as I say that, Beats has gotten a whole lot more distance penalties somewhere. All of a sudden, he has twice as much distance penalties as Micro does. So all of a sudden, Micro has a little bit better of a shot of catching NDL Beats. And he's not close enough right now, but the numbers are looking a little bit better. Cosmic and Micro both duck into the pits this time by. This is AFZ next, and Snowland Acura versus Dodge. These two cars are a match made in hell. They hate each other because they both are strong in similar ways, but it performs on track radically different. The Acura has great acceleration, but also good top end. The Dodge has good acceleration, but good cornering as well. So getting a movement done is so hard because they both are strong in the same part of the track, but it gets utilized in radically different ways. But they'll both pit along with NDL Illusion as well. Illusion now finally comes out of the pits. So that opens up the track for Light and Worthy, who had just caught them on circuit, but now they'll be back to having clean track ahead of them going forward. Could Otavio be an outside contender for a top 5 result in the Mustang? That is another interesting story to keep an eye on as this event continues to develop here. Otavio might have a shot at a top 5 result. At this stage of the event, everyone who is not NDL Beats has made 4 stops, and we are anticipating that the majority of the field, if not absolutely everyone, is committing to a 7-stop strategy. Beats might be the wild card. He may have some other wild strategy up his sleeve, up the car's tailpipe. And Beats does not hit the pit lane entrance this time. No issue there. So we will briefly see Otavio go back by and into 3rd place once again as they come across the line. Next, and Snowland might want to be careful because the next drive, they are going to be caught by ESV Karts likely sometime soon. Maybe not super soon because Karts will have to pit at some point and make their next stop. In fact, they might do it at the end of this lap. But Karts has enough pace. He is going to catch and put Snowland in next lap down before this is over. There is no doubt in my mind that we will see that happen here. Overall, this has been a relatively calm event at Catalunya. It's not to say that nothing has happened, but it's definitely been on the calmer side of things. Worthy and Light trying to run down on NDL Micro at this stage of the event now. And it is starting to get a little bit darker on the track. The clouds are out still, obviously. But a little bit more significantly, I would argue, is that it is getting later in the day. The sun is not hitting the track directly. The track temps are going to start cooling off, and you will start seeing the tires handling differently because of that. So be prepared. Drivers might be caught off guard by how their tires suddenly change handling-wise near the end. Karts still on pit lane. Avocado comes out of the final corner now, but Karts is likely going to be able to hold on to the race lead over Avocado. Karts is accelerating. Avocado is closing the gap down, but just not enough time left as they come down to the braking zone. Yeah, Karts is well clear of Avocado. Karts is an entire pit stop ahead of Avocado at this stage of the event. And Pop Rocky and Otavio now pit Alvarez 3rd and 4th place right now. Don't know how Pop Rocky ended up ahead of Otavio. I feel like I missed something. Wonder if Otavio may have hit the wall coming into the pits and I might have missed it. But this cycles NDL Beats back into 3rd place on track. Along with Cosmic now cycling back to 4th on circuit once more. And NDL Micro back to 5th on track with Worthy in 6th and JSR Light in 7th. And it looks like Pop Rocky is going to come out 8th on circuit with Otavio 9th. And then it should be NDL Illusion in the Dodge Viper, who will be 10th. After that will be NWR Hyphen, who will be 11th, followed by EMC Bunter, who will be in 12th, just a little bit ahead of Ruiz Racer. Ruiz was running way high up the grid early on, but as this has gone on, he keeps running soft, and now he's kind of in a bad position. The pace has just not been there, and if he's going to run a set of medium tires later, he's going to plummet near the rear of the grid. 14th is Snowland, 15th is AFZ Next, and then last place is NWR Berkey, who has actually gotten back onto the lead lap, although it's only for a short period of time. Berkey, once he makes a stop in the next lap or two, will go a lap down once more. Real quickly, I just want to see, when is Avocado planning on making a stop? Probably will be another 3 laps or so. But while we are in this holding pattern right now, as we are closing down the middle third of this final stint here at Catalunya, the track is starting to get cooler, but I think everyone is just about solidified their positions. We're going to go ahead and knock out a Twitch mandated ad break. We'll be back momentarily here at Catalunya. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Catalunya. There are some interesting fights going on in various parts of the circuit. This is VER Worthy, NDL Micro, and JSR Light all having a bit of a fight, and Worthy is slowly clawing himself into a position where maybe we could be talking about him stealing a third place result from NDL Beats. I'm not saying it's happening for certain, but Worthy has gotten gradually stronger and stronger as the event has gone on. We might still see a VER Corvette on the podium. Maybe not podium for the race overall, but potentially a podium in this final stint. We look at the distance penalties right now. VER Worthy has less distance penalties than NDL Beats. He also has only slightly more than NDL Micro, so if they finish where they are right now, a Micro would still nip Worthy, but if that gap opens at all, no, we will see Worthy keep it. And here comes Micro. Worthy gets a tire into the dirt, and Micro goes by. That switchback section at the bottom of Sector 2 really upset the Corvette. Now he's going to try and fight back, try to go the long way around. Well, find like this is not going to help them catch Beats. So Beats is going to be more than happy to see this duo, or I should say trio, because Light is still there, but he'd be more than happy to see this trio continue to go back and forth at it here. Something happened to NWR Hyphen that caused him to lose a bunch of time at the end of the straight. I mean, we're not sure what it is. I imagine that we're going to see Hyphen duck into the pits this time now due to tire wear. Yep, that's exactly what's happened. Hyphen ducks into the pits of this circuit, slaps the outside wall. So Worthy is now back in 6th. Micro runs in 5th. The wild card in all this looks like it might be the BMW M8 of NDL Cosmic. Cosmic has been holding on to a top 5 run here, 4th right now in this BMW M8. Granted, when it comes to distance penalties, he is way off of the likes of Beats, Micro, and Worthy, but still, Cosmic is putting together something pretty strong for this entry today. event has really calmed down here. Well, it started calm. We have seen some chaos, but the event has gone relatively calm here in this final stint. Smaller field, and everyone's kind of committed to knocking out, well, most everyone's committed to knocking out a stint on the medium tires very early on today. Now we see VER Worthy and JSR Light both going ahead and ducking into the pits. So Micro will have a few more laps in cleaner air now. Probably pitting about 2 to 3 laps, I would imagine. So changes since the start of the race. Although we've had a slightly smaller grid, everyone who started is still running right now. Karts and Avocado are still running where they started. Same with Pop Rocky, who's back there in 6th. But Micro has slipped down the grid. Beats has moved up just a bit. Cosmic is up 9 positions since the start. Absolutely incredible. Otavio and India Illusion both up by significant amounts as well. ZR Ruiz Racer has slipped back to roughly where he started, if not a little worse. Same with Snowland. VER Worthy is way down, but he did just pit, so that does kind of unfairly weigh it. AFZ Next is slightly higher. JSR Light also just recently pitted, so he is way farther down than where he actually should be recorded. NWR Hyphen started last, but has actually moved up a bit. And then both EMC Bunter and NWR Birchie are worse off than where they started the event. But I believe that Bunter and Birchie are both on teams that had a disconnect in Stint 2. So, realistically, just being around is going to help them overall. ESV Karts going to have to deal with a little bit of traffic here. And that is a Mustang, I believe. Yes, that is not a Mustang. That is Birchie, actually, right? No, that is not. That is Bunter. That is a Mustang. That is EMC Bunter, who he now has to cope with. How aggressive do you get trying to navigate traffic, Karts? That is the question today. He's going to go deep under braking here. Should clear him without too much issue. Yeah, Bunter is not confident enough with that car to do anything to fight back. So Karts not really held up too much there by traffic. In second place is about a third of a lap back. The gap between Karts and Avocado right now is about what I expected the gap would be between the ESV drivers and the rest of the field in stints 1 and 2. That ended up not being the case, but now we are seeing a gap closer to what we were anticipating here. Still no distance penalties for Karts. And that extra point could really be something that upsets and shakes up the championship. Again, there was a 50.50 point swing in the championship in Avocado's team's favor over Karts, and was a 45 points over Beats and Micro's team. Well, Beats and Micros have not been anywhere close to the front of the field. They are not contending for the race win overall. So it is really just between Avocado and Karts. We know that Karts is going to leapfrog Beats and Micro after this is over, but the gap is really going to close by about 4 to 8 points, depending on how bonus points ends up playing out. But still, Avocado's team should still have an entire race worth of points in their bag. But we do not know yet if they only have 2 races left in the season or 3. There has been talk about running a December Enduro early in December before the Christmas season gets underway. Or, well, the proper Christmas break gets underway. But we do not know how that's going to turn out yet. Big thing now is that Karts is in the position where he is starting to catch traffic significantly. And every time he catches traffic, that is probably the biggest risk he has of losing this no penalty run right now. And yeah, you can't see the sun at all now, so track temps are going to continue to cool off and get cooler. It's going to change how long it's going to take for the tires to get up to temp, but also it will change how long the tires will last, assuming you're not burning up the tires by a ridiculous amount. This should actually help with some tire life a little bit. Might not give you an entire extra lap of life unless you were already really on the edge, but it might make it to where you're not really bleeding off time as much near the end of a run. NDL Pete's pitting out of the third position. And then you have F1R Paparaki, who is going to stay out another lap. Paparaki has a lot of distance penalties, but he is kind of an outside contender for a top 5 result right now. Kind of the story of the day for this Dodge. We've not talked a lot about him for overall positioning, but he is 6th overall. 6th? 7th overall coming in, as likely going to move up at least a 6, if not a few more spots as well. We didn't really talk about him a lot in Stint 2 either in this car. It wasn't Paparaki, it was a different driver then. But he did end up in some incidents, or around some incidents. Apparently he was not involved in the incidents. And it did pull off a 4th there. So yeah, interesting times for this Dodge entry, to say the least. Well, 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 look who's back at it again. It is Worthy, Micro, and Light, and Karts finally jumps into the pits with 37 minutes left. You do the math, if Karts wants to, he can go ahead and run medium, or he might be able to go medium soft. He has enough of a gap. Whatever he chooses to do is likely going to be the winning strategy here. Karts might. I can guarantee you Karts will make one more stop. 2 more stops might be in the cards, but I'm not sure about that. But he is pitting earlier than everyone else. I think he is committing to all stops. He's being defensive. Doesn't want to push the tires too far. Doesn't want to run the risk of burning up the tires and getting a distance penalty, I imagine. So I would not be surprised if we see Karts go on a 8-stop strategy, but I think a 7-stop would work fine. If he puts on softs now and then throws on mediums to the very end, I imagine he'll be fine. Paparaki is pitting this time. Otavio is pitting this time as well. So that will cycle Beats back into 3rd place on the circuit here with 35 minutes remaining. And boy, you can visibly see it is getting a lot darker now. And we are back to Berkey being the only driver a lap down, but that's not going to hold as these other drivers near the rear of the grid make their stops. They will be overtaken by Karts. Avocado, interesting enough, actually has ended up right behind Karts right now, but he is at a tire disadvantage. He is ended up behind Karts, which is impressive in its own right, but is at a tire disadvantage. And again, the gap between the two of them was 0.38 miles coming into this final stint. So while Avocado's teammate Cavatra did win Stint 2, very unexpectedly, right now it is not looking like Avocado is in position to really do anything to Karts, because every time Avocado starts to get close to Karts, the tire differential works out so drastically in Karts' favor that opens up, and the gap gets bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes on. Still, Avocado has been putting on a respectable run and is doing just about everything they need to, which is something I feel like I've said 16 times today. I will admit there's not been a lot to talk about, so I have been getting very repetitive today, and I do apologize for that, but got 6 hours. Sometimes you have to say the same things again for people who have not been paying attention. A little less than 35 minutes left here. We're anticipating that almost everyone has 1 to 2 more stops left at this stage of the race. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and knock out a Twitch-mandated ad break. We will be back momentarily here at Catalunya to see when Avocado and Beat select to make their next round of pit stops here at Catalunya. We'll be back shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Catalunya. Your eyes do not deceive you. NDL Avocado is back ahead of ESV Karts here with 32 minutes left. It was a big draft base move. He didn't go for a big dive. Instead, he put the bumper to Karts. Didn't force Karts off circuit in turns 1, 2, or 3, but stayed right behind. Then gave him another tap going into turn 4. Karts went wide, the car couldn't handle the cap, and Avocado has gone to the lead and is now opening the gap. But as this is happening, you have to wonder, is Karts just saving tires? Is Karts going to try and make an alternate tire strategy work? Is he just saving tires right now, knowing that he only has to make one more stop, while Avocado has 2 more stops to make? Could that be the play of the night that we are about to see unfold? Karts just reducing his pace a little bit to salvage his tire life. Avocado, mind you, is going to have to pit either at the end of this lap or the following lap, so he's going to be pitting with about 28 to 30 minutes left. You can't make that work unless you throw on hard tires, and hard tires are so unbearably so, no one ever recommend running that. So you have to wonder, is NDL Avocado going to go ahead and throw on 2 more pit stops and do softs to the end? And for Karts, well, Karts, I think, is going to be in a position he only has to make 1 more stop. All things considered, I see no way that Avocado is going to be able to catch Karts and hold station. Doubly so because Karts still has no distance penalties, while Avocado has 0.143 distance penalties. That is the 4th highest of everyone on track at this stage of the event. Meanwhile, Micro has been caught by JSR Light as Worthy has scooted off into the distance. Seems like as the track has cooled off, Worthy is really coming into it. But Micro is under threat now from JSR Light and F1R Pop Rocky. Now, while Micro has less distance penalties than the 2 of them, Micro just has not had the sheer pace that we are expecting from him today. Avocado stayed out for another lap. Oh, that was interesting. Light had a bad run in Pop Rocky, go all sorts of sideways, trying not to run to the back of the ass, and now he goes to the inside, which turns into the outside, into the heavy braking zone. Do you try to make the long way around work in the Viper? Boy, he goes deep under braking, makes a little bit of contact, cuts off the Aston corner exit to make contact 2 more times. All sorts of sideways as the Aston. That got very argy-bargy, but Pop Rocky has gotten by JSR Light for 7th. And now NDL Micro trying to run back down on Worthy, and Worthy is going to pit with 29 minutes left. I wonder, did Worthy hit the wall there and bleed off time? It sure looked like he may have bled off time there. The camera angle was not the greatest. In the fight between Beats and Micro, well, Beats has over 3 times the distance penalty that Micro has. Micro is not really closing on Beats, but if it just comes down to distance penalties, Micro might catch them. It's going to get really close here. Right now, we're looking at about, what would you say, 340 feet? 350 feet between Beats and Micro right now? And Avocado finally pits out of the lead this time. So Karts will re-inherit the race lead now. And Karts will also be putting AFZ next a lap down very shortly here, I would imagine. But again, for Karts, we think, although we're not sure, we think that Karts is going to be running medium tires in the final stint. If he can make this set of tires last another 7-8 minutes, he could throw on a set of mediums and not struggle. If he can make these tires last something closer to 12 more minutes, he could throw on soft tires and be fine as well. And Karts, we expect, only has 1 more stop to make. Avocado now also has only 1 more stop to make, but he is now almost an entire sector behind. Alright, the rumor is that Karts is on medium tires right now. So if Karts is on medium tires right now, he'll probably be able to go very, very deep into the run. The question is, will Karts go back-to-back mediums to the end, or is he going to throw on another set of softs for the very end. I imagine that Karts will likely go ahead and throw on softs at the very end of this. So Karts finally knocking off the Stint that will be on the worst tires. Again, the meta in the series has been, for most tracks, run a 7-stop strategy. All of your stints run on softs except for one of them, and you want to run mediums on one stint. But when it's going to be, well, that seems to be up to the driver to decide. This continues to be a fight now. Micro runs behind F1R Paparazzi, so Paparazzi is starting to get really punchy here. He still has a lot of distance penalties. Micro just needs to micromanage his distance penalties, and he'll be fine. I believe Micro has the least amount of distance penalties of everyone except ESV Karts at this stage of the event. Here comes Cosmic into the pits with 25 minutes left. This is an interesting period to pit. 26 minutes left. Mediums aren't going to last that. You would have to go soft to the end. So I think Cosmic and Micro, who's pitting now as well, are kind of locked into making another stop. Beats, who is staying out a little bit longer, I think. Yeah, Beats should be able to make it all. It's not going to be great. But Beats could probably stay out for this lap, another lap afterwards, and then throw on mediums and be fine. Only one more stop, but those two that just pitted, everyone who's pitting right now, I think, is going to have to make another stop. Either that, or they're going to be on medium tires to the end that are just going to be absolutely hurting. Right now is not an ideal time to stop. This is kind of the bad time. You want to stop about 5 minutes from now, or about 3 minutes earlier. If you were paying 3 minutes earlier, you could go soft and get maximum advantage out of the tires. If you're paying 5 minutes from now, or at this point 4 minutes from now, you could throw on mediums and be good to the end. So Hyphen and Nex both have gone a lap down now to ESV Karts. We anticipate that Karts has one more stop that he will be making. We just don't know when it will be and what tires he'll put on. The softs ideally have gone about 15 minutes. Honestly, the number's probably a little closer to 14, but you could make them go 15 minutes. The mediums go about 20. I think that Karts might be in a bit of a rough zone. When he pits, it might be too late for him to put on mediums and get max result out of the mediums, but I think it might be too early for him to get max result out of the soft. So either he puts on mediums, or will be putting together a bunch of unimpressive laps, won't be bad, but they won't be very great laps, or he'll put on softs and will be absolutely hemorrhaging time on the last circuit. The only thing is, though, that Avocado is like a quarter or almost a quarter of a lap behind Karts. And Avocado also has another pit stop to make, and he has a bunch of distance penalties. I think Karts could afford to throw on soft tires, see them burn off, and he could still walk off with the Stint victory without too much issue here. Pop Rocky runs in third right now and will likely pit at the end of this lap. And will likely have to throw on medium tires to go to the end. For NDL Beats, who runs just a little bit farther back in the Acura, Beats is just pitted, likely thrown on. Whatever tires it is they've thrown on, it's not going to be great. Pop Rocky might have something for Beats. Big thing, though, is, again, distance penalties in this fight works out in Beats' favor here. So if Pop Rocky deals with any sort of significant tire fall off near the end of this, or Beats just closes in on Pop Rocky, Beats is going to get him off of distance countbacks. That's what, 370 feet, I think, between the two of them that it needs to be. 370, 375, something about that is about the penalty difference between Paprocki and Beats. In feet, that is. Otavio and Ruiz Racer are pitting now, so those two drivers will definitely be putting on mediums to go to the end. We look again at karts. I see no reason to doubt that Karts is going to be able to make this work. I do think Karts is pushing this set of tires a little deeper than he needs to, but I think Karts is going to be fine. Avocado is going to have to pit at some point. I think Avocado and Karts are both going to pit in about 4 to 6 minutes, and they'll likely both put on soft tires, and honestly, in the outright sprint between the two of them, Karts has Avocado beat. There's nothing Avocado can do. So I do think that while Karts is going to bleed off time in the lap or two before making their final stop, I do think that this win is absolutely in Karts' favor. He has too much advantage in both distance penalties and overall gap on track between himself and second. Paprocki now finally pits out of third position, so this will give third back to NDL Beats. Remember, Paprocki is one of the drivers fighting with Beats to try and steal the third place result in not just this stint, but in this event overall. NDL Cosmic now up over a quarter of a mile worth of distance penalties. Where is VER Worthy going to be along with NDL Micro? These drivers are not in a great position when it comes to their tire life. They probably should have pitted that time around to put on mediums, but they are kind of sticking with it. These drivers, when they pit, either they're going to put on soft tires and they're going to be hurting to the end, or they'll put on mediums and just not really be able to make good use out of them. And Beats isn't in a great spot either. Paprocki, though, has a massive penalty disadvantage compared to these two. Micro has under a little bit more penalties, but he still has less than half of the distance penalties that Beats has. And it still has only about 2/3 of the distance penalty that Worthy has. So, Karts has lapped everyone up to 10th position. Now, again, we'll be pitting. We anticipate not this lap, probably next lap, or the lap after. If he goes to the lap after next lap, he will be good. He'll probably be able to put on softs and just nurse it to the end. But he has put so much of the field a lap down. This lap traffic's going to be the other thing. Now, granted, if Karts and Avocado are both pitting, they both likely will end up avoiding most of this traffic, I imagine, to the end. But still, definitely an interesting thing to consider. Just how Karts, unlike Green and Pipes before, has had no issue with traffic. Karts and Pipe kept losing time to VER Bruno in traffic. But today, Karts has not really struggled with traffic at all. Every time he catches them, the guy disposes of them in a nice, smooth way, and Avocado has been the one who has been more struggling with the traffic. Okay, Micro runs in 5th position. 4th is Cosmic, who has so much distance penalty, there's no way he stays ahead of Micro. And then Beats is way up the road in 3rd, but is Beats far enough up the road to stay ahead of Micro, and will the tires for Beats, Micro, and Worthy be okay to make it to the end? Paprocki runs a little bit farther back. He's got tires that you won't have to worry about falling out, but he is way worse off when it comes to distance penalties. Oh, and it's happened! Karts, once again, in the last 20 minutes, Karts gets a distance penalty, and that is 1 point denied to the ESV team, and that will take a little bit of the weight off of Avocado's back. That is one fewer point that ESV Karts is going to try and take here. And that's one more point that the NDL team, who is leading the points, will have over the ESV drivers. Karts is being harassed now by Hyphen and Snowland, who seem to have inherited, by sheer chance, a bit of a tire advantage over our leader, and they are now harassing him. They want to get back by so they can get back on the lead lap. And Kart says, all right, fine, you guys want it, you can have it. He backs out way early and lets both Hyphen and Snowland get back on the lead lap here. Real quickly, we look at the tire life for Snowland, 38%, so he will definitely pit again. And for Hyphen's going to have to pit this lap, I imagine. So Hyphen will probably end up a lap down to Karts anyway. And Karts is pitting with 16.5 minutes left. Okay, so Karts pitting a little bit earlier than anticipated compared to Avocado. Avocado's going to stay out for a little longer. Avocado's got a small tire advantage. He's going to try and push it. But again, the gap is so big. There's no way it's going to be enough. I see no way that Avocado can do it. Again, not only does Avocado have to catch Karts on track to win the event overall, he needs to be ahead of Karts by 0.38 miles. That's just not happening. Karts may have pitted early, but he could afford to pit early. I will say that Karts is going to definitely deal with a bit of tire fall off in the very last lap, but other than that, I don't think there's going to be any real issue that he's going to have here. And the driver who pitted with him, that is NWR Hyphen, and Hyphen has not had the pace, so even though he's pitted at the same time as Karts, he has not had the pace. He's going to fall off, and is not going to be an issue for Karts. In fact, if anything, this has worked out well for Karts, because Karts now should not have to worry about traffic for the rest of this run. We are going to stick on track here to the end of the stint today. The end of the stint here. Watch this race roll down to the end. The real interesting fight is going to be Beats, Cosmic, Micro, Light, Pop Rocky. And Pop Rocky has caught JSR Light. Look at their tire difference right now. 60% already for Light. Light's going to have to pit this time. Awesome. I'm shocked Light didn't pit the last time by. Pop Rocky is on medium tires and is just nursing mediums to the end, knowing that positions ahead will come to him. But Pop Rocky has a lot of distance penalties that the drivers ahead do not have. And NDL Avocado makes a stop now with a little less than 15 minutes to go. So Avocado's going to get the max use out of the softs. Karts is going to push the softs a little bit farther, but it's not really going to matter. Again, I'm really interested to see about our top three. We look at Beats right now. 47%, and he has to make these tires last another 14 minutes. And then behind him on track is Cosmic. Cosmic is in a worse conundrum. His tires are way worse, and even more significantly, Cosmic has to deal with over a quarter of a mile of distance penalties right now. NDL Micro has aborted. Micro has said, I can't go to the end here. So Micro is going to pit. He wants off these tires. So this will drop Micro behind Pop Rocky on circuit. Now, Micro will have great tires to the end, but I don't know if he's going to have the time to run Pop Rocky down. This might just come down to what can Beats make happen on this rubber to the end. It might be Pop Rocky who steals a third place in the Viper. But again, distance penalty is the big wild card here. So now that JSR Light has pitted, he has ended up well behind VER Worthy, who had already committed to making the stop. Again, committing to making this final stop as early as possible will help you take the medicine more. The later and later you try and make this final stop, the worse and worse off you're going to be. Worthy is still well behind Micro, though. So I think between Micro and Worthy, Micro definitely has them. I think the fight's going to be Cosmic versus Pop Rocky versus Micro. I mean, Beats versus Pop Rocky versus Micro. And as I say that, Beats is pitted. So Beats is pitting. Beats says, I can't do this. The tires have beat him up. And Cosmic is pitting as well. So Pop Rocky now cycles up to third on track. Now he is on medium tires that have some wear on them. He's got Illusion behind, who is on his own strategy. I think Illusion is going to still have to make a stop. Yeah, Illusion's going to be pitting very shortly here. Illusion's pitting this time, actually. And then the next driver will be Otavio, and Otavio's pitting this time. So then it will be Micro. So it is legitimately just Pop Rocky versus Micro. The gap between them is gigantic, though. But Micro is not going to have to deal with tire fall off. But did Micro wait a lap too long to put on the soft tires? That's going to be the question. Pop Rocky is going to be slow and is going to only be getting slower as this goes on. He is on worn hard tires but has a gigantic gap. Again, the big thing to consider, Pop Rocky has more than 3 times the distance penalties that Micro has. Cosmic is kind of the odd man out in this little scenario. Cosmic runs in 5th, has pitted, put on new tires, but has over a quarter of a mile of distance penalties right now. Gap between Karts and Avocado has shrunk a bit. It is now Avocado is on the same front straightaway as Karts. So Karts is definitely just trying to micromanage his tires to the end here. But again, distance penalties and overall gap on track, not to mention having 0.38 miles in the bag already. We know ESV has this one. It's not been as destructive as a victory as we were anticipating, but it is going to be an easy ESV win. The fight is going to be for third. Beats has 0.123 miles worth of distance penalty right now.
10 minutes remain.
I think Beats might get him. I think Beats is definitely going to stay ahead of Pop Rocky. No way that Pop Rocky catches Beats. It's just going to be a matter of how much can Micro run down the gap between himself and Beats. Beats, I think, might be able to pull off this third place result here. So let's do a little bit of calculation here. Pull out the calculator, ladies and gentlemen. We are looking at 390 feet of difference. Almost exactly. It's closer to 391 feet of difference in distance penalties between Micro and Beats. Real quickly, let's look at the distance information that was dropped before this started. And the gap between them was 0.11. So it was 0.11 miles before Hoof. $332 feet, basically. That's what we're looking at. Those are the numbers we're looking at, basically. Beats needs to be that far ahead of Micro to maintain third. That is what I'm looking at. Micro is basically guaranteed to clear Cosmic, and I think he's going to get Pop Rocky without too much issue. It's Beats that's the wild card here. For Worthy, frustration, because he had pace, and he has gradually been getting faster as the event has gone on, but did not pit as soon as I think he needed to, and I think it's going to be the main thing that'll shunt him down in 7th spot, when he probably feels like he should be way higher up the grid. Now, granted, distance penalties will help. He's just about guaranteed to clear Cosmic off of distance penalties as well, but still, for the remaining VER Corvette, definitely going to be more than a little bit of frustration for them. Gap between our top two has stopped shrinking for the moment. I think Karts has found that nice happy medium between managing tires and lap times here. Karts and Avocado have been 1 and 2 at the end of stint 1 and 2, and have been running first and second for almost the entirety of this stint. They most definitely deserve this. It's just going to come down to third. Also, one other thing worth talking about, it looks like 11th place HYR Otavio is just barely going to be able to stay on the lead lap. Snowland is a lap down, and it looks like might fall behind NWR- for 12th. But Otavio is still fighting with Ruiz Racer. Ironically, Otavio and Ruiz Racer were fighting for a spot high as 5th early on, but that was mainly off the fact that they were burning up softs early on, and they've not had that kind of legitimate pace. And that is why they have gradually fallen this far back in the grid as the event has gone on. Pop Rocky is still closing slowly on NDL Beats, it seems. Beats has no traffic to deal with. Pop Rocky has no traffic ahead, but there is Cosmic behind who might cause him a little bit of problems. Then you have Micro and Worthy. Worthy is slowly closing down on Micro at this stage of the event. Not much to say. 5 minutes left. Karts is going to wrap up the win that his teammates Green and Pipe set up. Avocado is going to work off of Cavatro's hard work, bring home 2nd overall, and the team will maintain the majority of their points lead. The fight for 3rd is interesting, but I think it's going to be in Beats' favor over NDL Micro. It is getting close, but not close enough, fast enough. I think Beats is going to trounce Micro, and the Acura NDL team is going to move into 3rd proper in the championship, while the NDL Ferrari team is going to slip to 4th. NWR Berkey making a last moment stop right now, but they were already a lap down, granted, so. And Ruiz Racer is hemorrhaging time. There may be a risk that we see Ruiz Racer go a lap down here. I think they have pushed their tires too far. So we might see Ruiz Racer go a lap down just because of excessive tire wear here. Either that or they pit, and if they pit, they're also still going to go a lap down. So, yeah. So once again, only the top 10 are going to be on the lead lap at the end here by the looks of it. Cosmic still runs behind Pop Rocky, but the difference in distance penalty between them is so big, it's just not going to matter. I think Micro is only going to be able to come home in 4th. I could be wrong. I was wrong at the end of Stint 2. I thought that was going to be ESV there, but it ended up being Cavatro. But still, that's what I'm imagining is going to be the case. It's a bit over 3 minutes left, so everyone will finish this lap and get the majority of another one afterwards. I think Karts is going to finish this lap and get another entire lap in. Cosmic and Pop Rocky having a little bit of an active fight now. BMW versus Dodge. Oh, and he turns him! He turns him! And Cosmic is spun out by Pop Rocky as they came out of turn 2. And he hooked him coming out of the corner. Pop Rocky moves into 4th. Cosmic will fall back to a distant 5th, but that will likely get looked at post-race. There's no, oh, that was some lag spike. That was a hook. And that will surely get looked at post-stint, post-race. That's also going to slow Pop Rocky down enough that Micro should easily be able to catch them, I would imagine, and might put Worthy in a position to catch them. For Cosmic Frustration, because this basically shunts him back to 7th, might even shunt him back to 8th or 9th, honestly, based on how the rest of this goes. Crazy drama at the very end here of the Catalunya Enduro. Real quickly, I just want to check Karts' tire wear. What does it look like here? As he is completing his last full lap. He is nearly at 70% wear. And Avocado, who is trying to chase him, is at 61. So a pretty significant difference. But again, Karts should be fine. Has more than enough distance and everything that matters. He'll make it. He's going to bleed off time, but he's going to make it. NDL Beats, who runs 3rd, he is sitting at 51% tire life right now. Driver he has to worry about the most, NDL Micro, is at 58%. So Beats has the tire advantage, but Micro has actually gotten everything out of these tires, I would argue. Bunter and Nex have gone back to fighting very late in the very end of this event once more. These two find each other, then they split apart, and then they find each other, then they split apart. All right. Just about time to bring this to an end. There should only be 2 or 3 more. Again, we don't know about the status of a December Enduro. There should only be 2 more events for sure in the season. And Karts will win and bring home back-to-back ESV victories as they're trying to claw back Granada Championship. 14 seconds left, and with tires that are in the 76% wear range, ESV Karts is going to go ahead and bring home another stint win and overall victory. Time's up. Over. Plow. Karts is your winner. NDL Avocado will be 2nd. 3rd will be NDL Beats, who maintains his position. Pop Rocky actually ends up maintaining his position over Micro as well. So Micro only moved up into 5th. So that dump and run was not enough to kick Pop Rocky out of the top 5. That time lost. Now, granted, there may be penalties post-race that we won't hear about during the broadcast, but that will be worth talking about. So we're going to go ahead and knock out an ad break and try to talk with some of our top finishers here and hear what they have to say when we return shortly here.